to me. Jokers to the right, here I am stuck in the middle with you. Yes,
What's up, Degenerate Nation? Welcome to Stuck with Collin, episode 5. I'm stuck in with me, as always, is Collin Wilson. He's stuck with me. I'm stuck with him. We're all stuck inside still, so you're stuck with us. What's going on, Collin? You're rocking the UNI gear today, huh?
Yeah, well, I got, extended family up in the Iowa area, and so some of them are Cyclone fans, some of them are Hawkeye fans, and some of them are UNI fans, and big time UNI fans. So much that they would gifted.
They're fans of UNI or Northern
you
Iowa?
and I, yeah, no, Northern Iowa. They particularly bought some gear for me for Christmas, and I thought I'd support that today. I'm really missing some March Madness, and it was definitely one of my favorite Missouri Valley teams, and so I figured I'd support them today and give them a little love on the show.
Sweet. Another weekend inside. No college basketball. One of the best weekends ever. It was hard to get through. I finished Succession, which was awesome. The season 2 finale was awesome. And the reason I bring that up is we're going to get to our top 10 TV shows. We're also going to talk about ways that we used to get scores back in the day. Now you're a little older than me. You might talk about like waiting for the paper the next day. I don't know.
Yeah.
But and then later in the week, we're going to do some brackets. We're going to talk about the college football bracket that's out there, about the greatest teams ever. We're also going to do the bracket that you're going to see shortly on actionnetwork.com and the Action Network app and on my Twitter. And then hopefully floating all around, because a lot of you gave input. There was like 500 replies to the tweet. And I used the replies that I got and then some of the ones that weren't included. But the worst beats of all time, we're going to do a 60-14 bracket. There's going to be a college football region, an NFL region, a basketball region with college and NBA, and then a lot of MLB, NHL, and some other random ones. We'll get to those later in the week. But I hope everyone's hanging in there. I do want to say this, just a personal. Well, I'll wait this for the end. How was your weekend?
I've had my family with me all weekend. I've had my 2 sons with me, so I've been playing a lot of video games. I live streamed a StarCraft match on Facebook Live and then on Twitch, so I got to do that for the first time ever. Wrote some code in RStudio. I'm now building graphs, some college football graphs on explosiveness and success rate. Got a piece, just came out. If you guys want to divert yourself from coronavirus, we literally just got it published within the last hour. It's a returning production times success rate piece. So you know how Bill Connolly will put out a returning production piece. This one is you should trust this team a little bit more because last year they were top 10 in success rate. It's kind of like Wisconsin's defense. They return 80% of everything. They were number 6 in success rate. They were second in havoc. So I love Wisconsin's defense right out of the box. Good piece there if you want to divert your attention and get back onto sports. You and I talked about this on an internal call a little while ago. The odds right now are about minus 550. There's going to be football in September. Let's hope that happens, right? So hopefully we get some Wisconsin football and everything else coming up.
Yeah. Well, let's make our bet of the day. And by the way, it's a great point. You can use this time while you're off, to if you're a bettor that does this more than recreationally, and if not, then you can refine your craft in other ways in your industry. But if we're speaking particularly to betting, refine your modeling skills. You can read, go back and just Google search. But there's a lot of free programming programs and classes out there that you can take. So there's a lot of things that you can do to refine your skills and to become a better bettor while we can't really bet because we don't even have. Well, let me just
Aussie
say this.
Football.
We don't have Aussie football. I was starting to fall in love with it, man.
You were hot.
I won my first 2 bets, and I was down by 50 in each one. I was I remember I wrote both off, and then they won.
I had Hawthorne money line the other night, and I fell asleep. I woke up. It was a 40-point win. It was fantastic.
That was an easy win. But the over, people who had the over, the under got fucked. There was a score in the last second. I turned it off by that point, but I heard. But I was starting to kind of understand a little bit of it and how it worked and the nuance. I was even saying, I tweeted what a contested mark. I was man, my Aussie friends would be proud. But it's kind of a cool game, so maybe I'll stay into it once it gets back because that's canceled for 2 months now too. But any thoughts on Aussie football? I kind of liked it.
I had a hard. I'll be completely honest. Like I sometimes I don't like tweeting about sports on. I don't like coming out on Twitter and talking about things like maybe like NBA because I'm not an expert and I don't want to look insufficient in talking about it. But with Aussie football, I'll just be honest. I had no clue what I was talking about. There's an arc. It has a 50 on it. I think it's called a 50-point arc. I'm not sure. You can punch the ball. You can pass the ball. By the way, a whistle doesn't stop play. You can move. Like there's a whistle.
Yep.
I think it means backpedal,
Backpedaling,
right? I
yeah.
didn't understand scoring. If you hit the outside bars of the field goal, that's 1 point. If you hit the inside, it's 6. But it seems to not matter whether you're within the arc or not. You don't get any bonus points for long distance shots. So I couldn't figure it out. But I quickly learned that it was as like from a live betting standpoint, leads can just evaporate like immediately. It was like Big 12.
It was crazy.
And you can beat the shit out of each other without getting a flag. There's no flags. Like, I mean, if this was the NFL, the game would have taken 8 hours long.
Yeah. The reviews were also like really efficient too. I was happy with their reviews. But we'll have to wait for another day for Aussie. All right, let's make our bet here. Let's bet $500 to charity if either one of us gets in within 3 days of the first day that sports comes back.
Oh,
so
like
now it has to be a major sport in the US. We'll clarify
just one of the
that.
Big Four. We're gonna call Big
so
Four.
Basically, you're talking about. If you think it's going to be till football, you could say in September or August, whatever. If you think it's going to be NBA or MLB, you might want to say something in the summer. So I'll write down my guess.
Let me look at a calendar because I want to be – I think it would rather start, say, like on a Friday than a Monday. So let me look at the calendar real quick. Or a Saturday, like a weekend for TV and stuff. Let me see. Okay.
All right. Let me write that one bigger. All right.
You ready?
Ready? Yep. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Oh wow!
All
wow,
right.
you are
discrepancy.
so much more optimistic than me.
I'm trying to stay optimistic. I also am trying to stay consistent because I said that over the last week, people asked me. I actually said June 15th to a couple people that asked. But it was a good point that you made, so I changed it to June 12th, which is a Friday. So I think it's going to be at least 2 months, like 2 more full months, which would be April and May. The reason that I'm thinking that we could potentially play baseball is you might have to do some things about playing in like New York and LA, but there's going to be a lot of states in like the Midwest that could potentially get back to normalcy a lot sooner. Now the travel and what are you going to do? I don't know. I think that there's a chance with no fans, by the way, at this point. I think that we might see either MLB or NBA games by June 12th. So there you have it. Those are our guesses. You want to give input on yours? Any reasoning behind?
Yeah, you guys know me. I went all stats and numbers here. I've made a prediction that I think 100,000 people cases, coronavirus cases. I think 100,000 may be the top of the curve. I really hope it's less. I really do. But right now we're sitting at 43,000 cases. I think 100,000 is when we might hit the curve. And according to South Korea, 10 weeks after that is when you can plan to start getting together in groups again, or at least going and doing stuff. So to me, that put my estimation out to around, I wanted to go early July. I really wanted to go the 4th of July. I almost did. But, thinking from an MLB and an NBA perspective, who's going to come back first? I think it actually might be the NBA. I mean, there's less the team requires less handlers, Like there's not, I mean, just to get the equipment moved, like team travel is like, multiple buses for MLB, but for NBA, it's not really as many personnel wise, and they can play in empty arenas. And
Yeah, but
I
you
think
can wear
it's,
you can wear masks on a bus if you
yeah,
want, but
I
like there's
just,
no contact. Like baseball is like you're not like I'm not sweating on you and right next to you, right? You know what I mean? And like July 4th is a good point if you wanted to bring baseball back then.
yeah.
But I agree with you with the groups. That's probably a good projection. But there's a chance that you can play sports without big groups getting together earlier. So that's what I went with. But that's a good thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you want to finish?
No, I just think you're right about the contact aspect of it with the NBA. So MLB like definitely comes. I could see them starting up in July around the 4th of July and that being it. But I went a little bit later than that because I did my estimate of I think 100,000 then 10 weeks after that. So I feel like we're about 10 days away from probably being at 100,000 cases.
It would be a good symbolic story for the U.S. if like we started off baseball on July 4th weekend. Like we obviously can't do it for that, but if it was feasible around that date, it would make sense if it's safe enough to do it by that point. So maybe I should have went with that,
But
but I'm
it's
going
good for
June 12th.
mental health too. I really, I'm looking forward to the day that they make the announcement because I think from a mental health perspective, I was talking to my best friend out there, Hayden. We were like, what's our next trip? Like we need something to look forward to, right? Like where are we gonna
Yeah,
go golf next? Where are we gonna go gamble next? We just need something from a mental health just to plan around. Like even with my
yeah,
sons, we can't plan a summer trip because we don't know if they're gonna be going to school or not. So
yeah. Like this is when I do all my vacations in the summer. We got to plan some Vegas trips to keep me sane. This was do my honeymoon this summer. Like, none of that's happening, and like then we're gonna go in from sitting in our house for 3 months into like just the biggest sports fall ever, and
right.
it's gonna be tough. Mentally, it'll be awesome once it comes back. But anyway, and then if you're, by the way, I've never had. I said this on a call we had earlier today on work. Like I've never had depression or anxiety in my life. My girl, people that are close to me, deal with it very seriously. I'm a very logical, happy-go-lucky, optimistic person, and I actually had like a panic attack out of nowhere. I didn't know what it was. I thought I was having a heart attack.
Yeah.
And my girl to tell me like, no, it's just you're having a panic attack. I've never had one in my life. Never had anxiety, and it was just for everything that's going on. People in our community, our friends who have lost their jobs, and just all this chaos. So if you need to talk to anyone, do it. And if you reach out to other people, see how they're doing. And if you're not doing all right, feel free to reach out to me on social media. I'm happy to lend an ear.
Yeah, I think you are feeling anxiety. Like for me, I've been through this before. Like I had a divorce a decade ago, and then I spent like a whole year just focusing on me and isolating myself because I was really just kind of finding out what it is that I love and who I am and what I want to be and what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I spent a whole year really isolating myself from friends and from females, from doing my kid time and then taking off and going to Europe and hanging out for 3 weeks. And it
This is
feels
where you
that
found out
way.
you love UMass football?
This is when I mean, when you're sitting in Amsterdam and at the Heineken Brewery and you're partaking in the coffee shops and you're thinking about UMass football, you love college football. Like when you're, you love college football when you're thinking about it in that aspect. But, I've done some self-isolation, like even after having traumatic events with deaths and divorces in my life. And this feels like that. So, but it's being put on you. You're not choosing to isolate. You're being forced to isolate. It's a completely
Yeah.
different ballgame.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So reach out to people, just check on them. And then if you need to talk, just talk. And if you don't have anyone to talk to, feel free to reach out to me.
You watched 90 Day Fiance last night?
No, but I DVR'd it. So it's in my DVR. And another how am I going to have a bad beat when there's no sports going on? All of my video game stuff is coming except the console, which is coming tomorrow. But like over the weekend, I got the controllers. I got all the games. I got my wireless controller charger, and the console's coming tomorrow. So I have all these games. Like you get the games, you're excited to like pop it in. And I haven't played video games in so long. So I don't have the console tomorrow. So we'll be playing some games. I can't wait to get into it. This is my show and tell early, I guess. We weren't even planning on doing one. Come here. It's just Pete.
Did you see there? Bringing Pete on here. Did you see there's a dog bracket out there now? Like, are you forcing us to choose between dog breeds? That's not even fair.
No, they're all lovely. This is Pete.
Yep.
He just finished this toy that I gave him with peanut butter in it. So now he wants to play. All right, Pete. It's National Puppy Day, by the way. Yeah, so what a bad beat that. But I'll have my shit tomorrow, and I'm excited to play. All right, the one thing that I wanted to talk to, well, we'll close out with two things. How we used to get scores. I was talking about this on Twitter this weekend. You used to be, I remember being in a movie theater before you had smartphones. And this is way back. So this is when I was in like high school. This is like early to mid 2000s when you would be at a movie theater and I would have a bet on like UCLA and I would text for info, like 4, then it was 4-8, whatever, 4-6, whatever 4 info is. And then it would text back to you like UCLA and the score. And then like I was on my parents' plan and like I only had a certain amount of text maybe at that time, but so you would have to use them wisely. But then my favorite was obviously Tell Me. So you would call 1-800-555-TELL and you'd be in a bar.
Right.
This is what it used to be like. This is mid to late 2000s when you didn't have internet on your phone, right? We didn't have smartphones. And you would call this number and it would say, tell me. And then it would start to go through the menu. You would just say sports. And a lot of times they would say, okay, weather. And they would go, sports. And you'd be in a corner of a bar. Finally, they would get it and it would be like, a horn. And it would go, sports. And then you would say, college basketball. A lot of times they'd be like, okay, golf. The golf report for Friday. No, college main menu. Okay. This crazy. And then finally we get to and then it would be, hi, Mark, just the highlights, Andretti here. And then you would say, Austin P. And then he would say, on Friday, Austin P. was obliterated by, and then all these different adjectives that you knew what it meant, bad and good, right before you even got the score. So if you're in your early to mid 30s or older, you know what I'm talking about. You're younger, you're probably like, what the fuck are you talking about? But those are some of the weird ways that I used to get scores when I was out, when you had action going on. Get anything to add?
Well, I mean, I think if you're a Gen Z or a millennial, you have to realize that back in the day, like we had rotary phone back in my day, back in like late 80s, we had to use the telephone for everything, a rotary phone. And they would create content and programming. Like for wrestling shows, you could call a 900 number and pay like $2.99, $1.99 a minute. And you could listen to what's going on at the house shows or a pay-per-view or Starcade or something. And I think, oh yeah. And I got deep shit for this. Cause I got my parents almost beat the crap out of me. Cause I called one of these 900 numbers for like wrestling info because it was being advertised on WTBS after a Braves game. Like, if you really want to know what happens at the Great American Bash, you can call this number and pay $1.99 a minute. And I think what people don't realize, like,
and you're listening to like it live or someone's telling you what's going on?
No, it was a created content audio message to tell you what happened during like a Sting Great Muta match or like a Ric Flair Dusty Rhodes match. So that was wild. And I think for all of you that play like fantasy sports out there, if you are a dinosaur, I guess I'm turning into a dinosaur, but the first time I played fantasy baseball was with my uncle when I was 13 years old. We had to get all the box scores out of the newspaper the next day and hand key our stats on a piece of paper. Like we kept fantasy baseball numbers and tallies for the season on a daily basis from box scores in the newspaper. And sometimes we would have to learn those games early by actually calling, like we'd call up to the Kansas City Royals box office, like, what's the score of the Twins Royals game? Like, cause we didn't have any apps back then. We didn't have any way to find out whatsoever. There was nothing on TV. Like people don't realize there was a Saturday night game. Vince Scully would do the ABC game of the week, like on Saturday. The Braves were always on. The Cubs were always during the day because they didn't have lights. Imagine this, Gen Z and millennials. The Cubs didn't have lights till 1989, and when they flipped it on, it was such a huge deal. Like it was this mega thing that Wrigley Field had lights. So getting scores back then it's so much different now. Everything's so on demand. It's just unfathomable to think about where we were back then.
yeah, I mean, now that we have our app is telling you in live and live your actual what your record would be and your win probability.
Right.
Right to the second. It's insane. We're actually betting it live, and it's yeah. And the other thing you could do is if you bet offshore, like so if you had accounts offshore, like I remember way back in the day, I would call back in college. I would call like Five Dimes, their office, and you could ask like what the score of a game was. I remember
Right.
doing that a couple times. But it's just some crazy ways we used to get scores. All right. Now that we're off of nostalgia street showing our age, let's go through top 10 TV shows of all time. All right.
Yeah, this ought to be good.
Not in
where you're
order.
going.
Not in order. And but I'm going to start with I'm going to do 5, then you do 5.
Okay.
All right. So I'll start with 5. These would not make my top 5. But I'm going to say despite the last season. Now I kept a lot of these out that are going on right now. Like I really liked Ozark. I really like Succession that I watched recently, but they're still like really
New. They're too
young.
new.
You don't know where they're going, right?
Yeah.
So like
Westworld.
Homeland would have been in my top 5 just based on like season 1, but then like it went downhill, and then like it's okay now. It's not my top 10, obviously, but like Weeds season 1 was awesome. So like shows can go really downhill. So
I got one.
Like let me see. Is there any shows that I have on here that are still on? I don't think so. But like Curb would have probably made it, but it's still going on. I don't know. It would have been close. But all right, here we go. These are my probably 6 through 10. Archer, I fucking love that show. It's brilliant writing. I needed to I was either gonna put Archer or Family Guy in here. I was trying to get a couple different genres. Friday Night Lights. I love that show. A lot of nostalgia. Played football my whole life. Favorite sport. And just so many good characters. Besides the last season, Black Mirror just makes you think. A topic that I'm just really fascinated in on how technology is going to take over our world. Mainly the ending, the finale here puts this into my top 10. 6 Feet Under, an old show on HBO. If you're younger, you might not have heard of it or watched it, but I think it's worth taking a look at. And then let's go with Band of Brothers. If you haven't seen that, if you like Saving Private Ryan, and you haven't seen Band of Brothers, you'll like Band of Brothers, but it's awesome show. Awesome show. So that's my probably 6 through 10.
Yeah, Band of Brothers was excellent. I didn't even think about putting that on there. Yeah, well, I think Westworld is too young for me to put it on the list. I think it's in totality
it's
when
trending
it's done.
there.
It's trending there. So I think I'll go with my bottom 5 like you, but I kind of got through my top 6 or 7. I was like, you know what? I need to bucket some of these off because so at number 10, I'll say the best sci-fi series that I love and watched and was fanatic about was Battlestar Galactica. So I wanted to get some geek mention in there that from a sci-fi perspective, Battlestar Galactica was excellent. I would have said The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian on Disney Plus is probably the best thing I've seen. It doesn't matter if it's Marvel or Star Wars or anything. The writing, the filming, everything is fantastic. It's worth a watch. Battlestar Galactica in total, I love. From an animated, this was tough because Family Guy's out there, The Simpsons is out there, but I went with Futurama. Futurama, if you haven't seen it, 20-minute episodes. You can find it on Sci-Fi. You can find it on Netflix, but they have a character out there named Bender who has to drink in order to function. If he doesn't drink, he gets rusty. And so one of the most hilarious animated series is Futurama. After that, I went with a late night flavor of it. Like I thought about Letterman. I thought about Carson because I loved watching Carson back in the day. But I actually settled on something that's current, and that's Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. I feel more in tune with the news and with what's going on in main events by watching 1 week of his show on Sundays on HBO than I do anything else. It has me in tears laughing. So that's my favorite from a late night perspective. then I've got a problem like you. Like, I put Lost on this, but it's only Lost season 1. The rest of them were trash. Like, Homeland was trash after they killed off Brody. Like, after he stopped playing, double agent.
Yeah, that Brody season, man, up until like the vest, that was so good.
Yeah, up until that, I mean, that was so fantastic. It was like you had to watch it. It was must-see TV every week.
I still fucking watch it like a fucking schmuck, still to this day. I gotta go watch it today.
I haven't watched this season because Carrie's just gone on too many trips for me to.
This season's actually closer to early. It's not as good, but it's like they're getting back to like the aspect of like the terrorism, and it's been okay this season. But
right. So Lost season
lost
1,
its luster.
Lost season 1, I thought was the best thing I'd ever seen from a single season of any show whatsoever. But I'll hold that comment for what my number one thing is on the list. Coming in at number 6 for me was actually The Office. Like, I ranked my top 5, and The Office fell out of it. I think, I'll go ahead and give away my number 5. I think Cheers and The Office are the best ensemble cast I've ever seen. And what I mean by that is the guy that's listed 8th in the credits is just as funny as the guy that's listed 2nd in the credits, or the girl. I think The Office they seem to be able to plug and play people in there for 6 or 7 seasons. And it was just fantastic. They had the best chemistry of any show I've ever seen. Same thing with Cheers. I know the millennials and the Gen Zers won't understand that, but from Norm,
yeah, I never watched Cheers. Maybe I gotta watch it. I'm a little too young to that being like on when I was growing up. So maybe I'll have to check it out. But good.
They've still got it up until today. You can pop in any kind of episode, and it never misses a beat. There's a joke every 20 seconds. Now, it's canned laughter from the audience, but that's all that's all in the family. That's all those shows back then. That's the way Cheers was filmed. And in 11 years, there's so many laughable moments in that show. And I try to tweet this out. Somebody had a bracket of TV shows, and they had Cheers as a 14 seed. People don't understand the 1993 when Cheers came to an end. Like the whole entire entertainment world shut down for this. Like, NBC devoted an entire night to this. Bob Costas did something from the bar. It was a major event for Cheers' last episode when Diane came back. So Cheers was number 5. Office was number 6 for me.
All right. If I was gonna go, I didn't think of like sitcoms. I'm not a big like sitcom and I mean, I watch sports. That's all I watch, and then like I'll DVR my shows and but like I love Family. I mean, Modern Family, but that didn't make my list. But all right, my final 5 is this one. A lot of people don't have in their top 10, but I fucking love this show, and that's Ray Donovan, which is not coming back next year, unfortunately. Sopranos, that's a pretty obvious one. Leftovers, and I thought was a brilliant show. Some people didn't get it or didn't love it. I thought it was brilliant from start to finish. And then Breaking Bad and The Wire, obviously, is number 1 for me. It was my show and tell last week box set. I watch it every year. I've never watched a show in my life besides The Wire from start to finish a second time. Like, if it's on, I'll watch an episode, right? But I've never like, all right, let me watch this whole series again. But I do it with The Wire every year. Right. So that's all you need to know. So those are my top 5. What do you got? What's remaining for you?
So on the top 4 for me, I'll say number 4 is Survivor. Either you get it or you don't. It's a gameplay perspective, like just
Big Brother. I thought about too, so I get it. So
yeah, I mean, from a strategy standpoint and numbers, and then from the mental health perspective of it, that you're on an island, you're away from your family for over 30 days is tough. I respect the show a lot. Number 3 for me was actually Game of Thrones. It probably would have been number 1 if they'd have nailed it on the last season. They didn't. They whiffed pretty bad, but up until then, they had some shows that absolutely floored me. Like, I'd have to take a walk, or I'd have to take a 30-minute break from life because the shows were that fantastic at some of them. And then number 2 for me is Breaking Bad, and I actually picked that in my list over Sopranos because I thought of all the shows where you have basically generated around a guy that is lying to himself about what he actually is. He's trying to play 2 dual roles, which is what Walter White was doing. He was trying to play family man for so long, and on the side trying to peddle off this the blue meth as Heisenberg, and he was over time turning into this completely different person, and by the end, he was in the empire business. He wasn't about making money for his family after he dies from lung cancer. He was in the empire business, and possibly, I think, greatest, like I said, in totality, unlike Lost, front to back, was Breaking Bad. So my number one show is terrible from front to back. 3 seasons of it. First season was the best thing I've ever seen. Second season was a farce.
You're talking about The Sopranos.
No, this is my number one show. The first season was the best thing I've ever seen. Second was a farce. Terrible. Don't watch it. And the third, I was actually a star of. I don't think people remember this. I was actually in it. So I'm talking about True Detective. So season 1 is like, you know how I know I love it? Like, I know you love The Wire and you watch it every year. If I catch 5 minutes of True Detective season 1 of Matthew McConaughey or Woody, like a clip somewhere on YouTube, I have to watch all 8. I have to watch the entire season because I get that addicted to the show. It's like I can't stop watching it. It made me rethink the way I look at organized religion. It made me rethink the way that I look at, like, say, serial killers and cult followers. And it made me rethink my philosophy. Like, just the nihilist attitude that Matthew McConaughey has on the show just made me think, like, man, I kind of agree with a lot of the shit this guy's saying. And when a show has the ability to change your philosophy and your thinking and on a number of topics, that's a pretty awesome show. Season 2 was pretty bad. Season 3 was filmed in Arkansas, and I got to play a cameo in one of the episodes next to Mahershala Ali. So that was really cool. I may dig up that tweet and tweet it out for everybody to see my face.
Well, I'll have to watch season 3 because I gave up on it after season 2 because it was so bad. So
season 3 was actually really good. Season 3 with Mahershala Ali was good.
I'll have to watch it. Fargo, I have to finish, but that was that and The Americans. I only watched one season of The Americans, and I said I'm going to save this for a day in the future once it's over to binge. It's potentially during this quarantine. That's going to happen very soon. That's another show that maybe is really good. From what I've heard, I haven't seen it. Better Call Saul, that could end up getting into your top 10, right?
It's current, though. It's current. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, eventually.
Got to see the ending. I think if they can pull it off with Kim, I mean, some people they're not around in Breaking Bad. So really this is going to hinge on what they do with Kim, what they do with Nacho, what they do with some of the characters that are not in Breaking Bad. Like, do we find out their fate? Is it tragic? Are they still around? Are they going to close the entire circle of the story? I mean, we've got Jesse's story. They had a whole movie on it in El Camino. So I don't think we'll ever see Jesse in Breaking Bad, but we are going to probably see Walter White, and we don't know what happened to Kim Wexler. So we got to see how. I think Breaking Bad. Better Call Saul is what Game of Thrones was exactly a year ago. Right now, you got one chapter left. You got one shot to finish it up to make it the greatest of all time. Can you do it?
Yep. And yeah. All right. So let's leave it there. Feel free, once you listen to this, tell us what you think. Where our picks are terrible or good, where you disagree, agree. Maybe we'll do movies, which is tougher to narrow down your list soon. You
know what people hate?
We
should do cereal. People get upset. They get irate about cereal.
Yeah, we'll do a cereal one too. Good idea. But we'll leave it there. This is a longer episode, so I don't want to go much longer. Thanks for joining me, Collin. Everyone else, hang in there, and we'll be back tomorrow with another show. Cheers, guys.
Peace out.